Turning 18 is an exciting milestone, and one of the first things you consider is getting a credit card to start building your credit. But often, with our super busy schedules as students, it's really hard to find the time to actually properly research for this step. And that's where I can come in to help. My name is Alian, and welcome back to the CreditVerse channel. Today, we're going to walk through obtaining your first student credit card. First, we'll discuss the reasons why getting a credit card is important. Next, we're going to talk about a few key aspects to consider when choosing a credit card. I'll highlight some of my top recommendations, and we'll conclude with a few tips and tricks for responsible credit usage. So why is it important for you to get a credit card as soon as you turn 18? Well, building credit is like laying the foundation for your financial future. It's an essential part of everyday life as an adult, and it's something you should start on sooner rather than later. Your credit history is effectively your financial report card. It tells lenders, landlords, and even potential employers how responsible you are with managing money. A good credit score opens doors to better opportunities. That could be lower interest rates on loans, or even getting that apartment or job that you really want. As a student, you might think, why is it important to get a credit card right now? I could start next year or in 2 years and pretty much be at the same place. And yeah, maybe that's the case, but why not spend a little bit of time starting as early as you can? So maybe when you need to fund your education in the future, if you want to go to law school or med school, or you want to get a loan for an apartment or a car, you can do that right away without having any problems. And a bank can see that you've had a credit card or some line of credit for the past 5 or 6 years. Now, some of you may be worried about the responsibility about getting a credit card, and that's perfectly normal. Remember though, a credit card is a tool, and how it affects your financial future just depends on how you use it. Don't worry, later on we're going to talk about responsible credit usage in great detail. Outside of the credit building aspect, credit cards also have some additional perks and benefits. They all have very robust fraud protection, at least compared to debit cards, where if your credit card gets misused, it's much easier to get your money back compared to with a debit card. Another advantage is improved budgeting. Compared to using a debit card and cash, a credit card is pretty much accepted at almost all places, and it puts everything in one place. So at the end of the month, when you get your statement, you can exactly see where all your money is coming in and going out, and you can have a much better idea of what your financial future looks like, compared to having to piece all the things back together and remembering, oh, did I spend that like $20 at a gas station in cash? Or, oh, this is for my debit card, or whatever the case may be. When it comes to selecting a credit card, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Although there are a couple of things you want to consider when you're getting your first card. First, it's low or no annual fees. An annual fee is like a membership cost associated with having a credit card that you must pay every year. And you're wondering, why should I pay to have a credit card? Well, in some cases, higher annual fee cards tend to have better perks, whether that be airport lounge access, maybe you get some discounts at certain retailers, or you can get elevated earn rates on some of your spending. While you're a student, you don't really want to be spending too much on annual fees. Getting a large bonus right away is pretty nice, or maybe some higher earn rates are pretty good as well, because you can generate some points a lot quicker, but you have to consider if you're going to spend enough to really make up that difference in price. For most, I'd suggest getting a credit card with no annual fee, or maybe in certain cases one with like a $40 or $50 annual fee, just to get started. One of the main benefits that I just didn't mention in the last section is the ability to earn rewards on all of your spending. You might get, 1 or 2% back, but at the end of the day, it does add up. While searching for a credit card, make sure it offers some kind of rewards, whether it be through points or cash back. Most cards nowadays offer at least 0.5% on all of your spend, and higher earn rates on some other categories like dining out or groceries. This is also the point where you need to decide between getting a points card or getting a cashback card. Now, cashback cards are by far the simplest. You just get cash back on all of your spending. Cards that have points programs are a little bit more challenging, and I would say they're high risk, high reward. In certain cases, if you do the research properly, you can get much better value out of some of these cards, but if you just want to get started and keep it really simple, I would just start with a cashback card. Later on down the road, if you feel that you have a better grasp on how the rewards programs work, you can definitely switch over, and that's exactly what I did. Now, when scrolling through your bank site, you're also going to see a lot of low interest rate or flex rate cards. You really want to avoid these as much as you can. Now, you might be asking, why do this? Aren't lower interest rates better? And the answer is not really. Not for you, at least. If you're being responsible with your credit card usage and you're paying off your balance every single month, the interest rate doesn't make a difference. It could be 5% or 100%. There genuinely is no difference to you at all because paying interest doesn't build up your credit score. Cards that are flex rate or have lower interest rates are meant for those who carry a balance or maybe take cash advances from their credit cards, and that's something you definitely want to avoid if you want to use cards responsibly. This last point ties in with rewards just a little bit. You have to consider what your lifestyle looks like. If you're someone who lives really far away from school and you have to fly back and forth, it may be worth spending the time researching what a co-branded card from Air Canada or WestJet looks like if you're going to be able to get the benefits out of that. If you spend a lot of money dining out, for example, you want to get a card that has high earn rates at restaurants and also pretty strong earn rates for what the rest of your spend looks like, whether it be for groceries or ride sharing. All banks have this calculator at the bottom of the card site that tells you how much you're expected to earn from rewards or cash back if you do your average spend on the card every single month. Now you can see what has the highest for your kind of spend and then just get the card that, is the best for you in that case. Now to make things easier for you, I've done a lot of research and I've pretty much looked at every single card offered in Canada, and I've picked out a couple of ones I think stand out best for students. I've divided it up into categories because I think certain cards might suit certain people better, just depending on their lifestyle. The first one is pretty easy. If you want to keep it as simple as physically possible, just get a credit card, a cashback credit card specifically, from the bank you currently have your other accounts with. The benefit here is that you can get approved in branch directly, and you can often have an advisor work with you if you don't really know how to fill in all the things on the credit card application. It's not super tricky, but it's always nice having someone there. That being said, they might try to sell you on getting the rewards version of the card just because it gives them a bit of a better bonus on their end. Just stay firm and say you want the cashback card and there shouldn't really be any problems. For the big 5 banks, TD has the TD Cashback Visa card, which offers 1% back on recurring payments, grocery and gas, as well as 0.5% on everything else. RBC has the RBC Cashback MasterCard, which offers 2% on grocery and 0.5% on everything else, which gets bumped up to 1% when you spend $6,000 on non-categorized spend every single year. CIBC comes in with the Dividend Visa card, which offers 2% back at grocery stores, 1% on dining, transport, gas, and recurring payments, as well as 0.5% on everything else. BMO comes in with their own Cashback MasterCard, which has 3% back at grocery stores, 1% on recurring payments, and then 0.5% across the board. Last but not least, Scotiabank comes with the Momentum No Fee Visa card for students, which offers 1% back at gas, grocery, recurring payments, as well as at pharmacies, and 0.5% back on everything else. If you want to take it a step further and look for a card that's not from your particular bank, but you still want a cashback card, don't worry, I think I have the card for you. Now before I tell you guys what my pick is, I'm going to give an honorable mention to the American Express Simply Cash card. It earns 2% back at gas and grocery and 1.25% back at everything else. Now the earn rates on this are obviously much higher than we've seen on the rest of the cards, and especially that 1.25% on uncategorized spend is really, really strong. It's 0.75% better than everything else we've talked about so far. The only reason I can't give this card the best cashback card is because it's an American Express. Some merchants still don't take American Express, especially places like Costco, and maybe on some student campuses, some places just don't take American Express, even if it's like a Subway or a Starbucks. If it's your first card, you really want to be able to use it everywhere you physically can, and having American Express kind of gets in the way of that. As a result, I'd say the BMO Cashback MasterCard is the best cashback card to get for students. As I mentioned in the last section, it has 3% back at grocery stores, 1% on recurring bills like your phone bill or utility, and 0.5% back on everything else. It has no annual fee, and being a MasterCard, you can use it pretty much anywhere credit cards are accepted, even at Costco, which I think gives this card the edge over some very, very competitive Visa products. If you're in my position where your school and your home are something like 3,000 kilometers away, you may want to opt for getting a travel card if you intend on flying back and forth pretty often. That's because the points you earn on your everyday spend can potentially pay for a round trip back and forth, which would really ease the burden if you have to pay for that in cash anyways. Although it's relatively slim pickings for students here, there's 2 cards I'd consider taking a look at. The CIBC Aeroplan Visa is definitely the best card if you prefer flying with Air Canada. It earns 1 point per dollar on gas, grocery, and on Air Canada, and 1 point for every $1.50 spent elsewhere. Now, with Aeroplan points being worth 2 cents per point, you can effectively double this earn rate, meaning you'd earn 2% and 1.67% respectively. In the way of perks, you get preferred pricing, which is just a 10% discount on flights booked with Aeroplan points. You also get a free SPC membership, and both these perks together can save you something like $100 or $150 a year, which is pretty good for a card which has no annual fee. Currently, the card is also offering a 10,000 Aeroplan point bonus, worth about $200 just when you sign up for the card and make your first purchase. If you're from the West Coast, where WestJet has focused more of their operations in recent times, the RBC WestJet MasterCard may also be worth it. You earn 1.5% back in WestJet dollars on WestJet flights, as well as 1% back in WestJet dollars on everything else. As well as that, you get an annual round-trip companion voucher for $199. This basically means if you fly with somebody else on a WestJet flight, they only need to pay $199 plus the taxes and fees on flights that are within North America. There's definitely a wide range of savings available with this. Sometimes you might save $50, you might save nothing, or you might save like $500 if the base fare is really high. Now, while this card does technically have a $39 annual fee, this does get rebated if you have an RBC student banking package, which is free. So if you want this card and you don't bank with RBC already, I would just get a checking account with them, which would give you this for free, and you also get a $100 bonus with a checking account. So it's a pretty good deal all in all. At the time we recorded this, there's also a $100 WestJet dollar bonus on this card, 50 of which you get when you sign up for the card, and the other 50 you get when you spend $1,000 on the card within the first 3 months. Now, if most of your spending comes from eating out, maybe entertainment, or even travel, and you don't mind getting a points card, I think the RBC Ion Plus is potentially the best card for you. You earn 3 Avion points for every dollar spent on dining, food delivery, grocery, ride sharing, digital gaming, as well as subscriptions, and you earn 1 Avion point on everything else. The value of these points are where it gets a little bit tricky. If you redeem for gift cards, for example, it's 0.71 cents per point. If you transfer to WestJet, it's 1 cent per point. But the best value you're going to get out of this is just stockpiling the points for now and saving them up, and after a couple of years, when you get an RBC Avion Visa card, you can transfer the points from this card to that card, add the 35,000 point bonus or whatever the case is at that point, and get a ton more redemption options. This can either be through getting some financial products with RBC, which have pretty reasonable redemption values, or by transferring to a bunch of additional airline partners that RBC has that are only available if you have the Avion tier cards. The card also comes with some pretty neat perks. It has mobile device insurance for 2 years, worth up to $1,000, which is neat, especially for the $48 annual fee. Speaking of that annual fee, you again get it rebated if you have an RBC student banking package, which I would just suggest to get if you want to get this card, is you get $100 for the banking package as well as whatever the bonus is on this card, and putting that together, you don't really pay anything for the card, and also for the banking package. If you don't want to pay that annual fee, and you also don't want to sign up for that student banking package, you could get the slightly watered down version of this card, which is the RBC Ion Visa, and you just get 1.5x at those additional categories and 1x on everything else. Now, if you're a student who's already gotten their first card and you're looking to upgrade, there's a couple of additional options for you here. I'm going to preface this with the fact that most of these cards are going to be American Express, as they don't have any annual income requirements, and also this is not really a comprehensive review by any stretch. I'm just going to give you the cliff notes, and you can research more on the cards in your own time. First up is the infamous American Express Cobalt card. You earn 5x on dining and grocery, 3x on streaming, 2x on travel, and 1x on everything else. Now you earn MR points, which are some of the most transferable points in Canada, and you can transfer them to a bunch of airline partners or hotel partners and book travel that way. It also comes with mobile device insurance, which is pretty neat, but you do pay an annual fee of $155 a year, so you have to see if the perks make sense for you. Next up is the Scotiabank American Express Gold card. This is an American Express card, as you know, it has the American Express logo on it, but it's offered by Scotiabank, and that's the bank you're going to have to go through. This is why it has a $12,000 minimum income requirement while still being an American Express, and that shouldn't really be too tricky if you're a student and you work part-time, or maybe you work through the rest of the summer. The reason this card is notable is because it has really strong earn rates like the Cobalt. It has no foreign transaction fees, so if you travel to the US or somewhere in Europe or Asia, you can use this card and not get charged that 2.5% extra fee. You also get a slew of other travel insurances if you are going to be traveling, but this does come in with an annual fee of $120, so again, you just have to see if the perks really make sense. If you want to get a cashback card though, the American Express Simply Cash Preferred is definitely the best option here. You earn 4% back at gas and grocery, as well as 2% back everywhere else. This does come with some travel insurances, even though it is a cashback card technically, but it also does come in with that $120 annual fee, so as I said the last 2 times, just make sure it actually makes sense for you. Now, let's talk about some tips on how to use your credit cards responsibly. First and foremost, pay off the balance in full and on time. Whenever you get the statement, just see what the due date is and make sure you pay off everything it says at that time, just because if you don't, you're going to gather some interest and you don't want to be doing that. This is not just with credit cards, but you also want to make sure you set a budget. It's really easy to overspend, especially when you're in school, because you might eat out every single day, And it's okay to do that, but make sure you have a budget and kind of try to stay within that budget. We're all for maximizing rewards here, but first and foremost, you have to make sure that you're being financially responsible, and spending outside of your means is certainly not financially responsible. Now, when you're just getting started, try to get maybe 1 card or potentially 2 cards if you really have to, just because it's going to be super tricky to keep up with the statement and due dates for maybe if you have 4 cards. And especially when you're started, you just want to build up and up slowly, and you don't want to, jump a bit too far in. It's totally fine to get more cards when you feel more comfortable and you've maybe been able to do it for like 6 months or a year. And that's exactly what I did as well. I got 1 card at the beginning, another card after 6 months, and then a couple more by the end of that first year. Fourth, avoid cash advances and balance transfers. A cash advance is just when you go to an ATM, put your credit card in and take some money out. And a balance transfer is where you use a credit card to pay off another credit card or another line of credit or another loan. This is because cash advances and balance transfers have really, really high fees, and you start getting charged interest right away. There's no grace period like 21 days or whatever till your next statement. You're going to be paying interest plus the fee, maybe $5, $10 or a percentage of how much you took out. And you want to avoid this just because it's not being super responsible unless you really, really, really have to. If you're at a point where you really, really need the money, getting a personal loan is definitely a better thing to do because the interest rate is going to be a lot lower and you're probably not going to get hit with the same fees you're going to get hit on a credit card that has a 20-something% interest rate. Lastly is something that's a little bit more complex, but not too challenging once you get the hang of it. And it's just keeping your utilization low. Your utilization is a percentage of your credit limits that you're using on a monthly basis. For example, if you have a $300 balance on your card and you have a $1,000 credit limit, your utilization would be 30%. You want to keep it under 30% if possible. Best to keep it, 5% or lower, 10% or lower, just because you don't want to make it seem like you're a high-risk customer to a bank. Having low utilization is the fastest and easiest way, other than obviously paying your cards off, to get the highest score really, really, really quickly. Before I let you go apply for your first credit card, let's just do a bit of a recap. You want to get a credit card because if you use it responsibly, it'll open a lot of doors in your future and you're just going to make your life a little bit easier. There's also some perks like rewards, its fraud protection is generally better than debit cards, and you're also going to be able to keep track of your budget a little bit better. When looking for a credit card, consider 3 main things: low or no annual fee, make sure the card actually earns rewards, and lastly, try to stay away from the flex rate or balance transfer cards, as those cards don't really make you want to be responsible with your credit. Getting your first credit card is a big step in your financial life, and I hope this guide has been pretty helpful. If you guys have any questions at all or want some more card recommendations, be sure to just comment down below and I'll try to get to them as soon as I physically can. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like, and you want more content like this and some more detailed reviews on some cards, be sure to subscribe and check out the rest of our videos. With that, we'll see you next week.